Could this be the end of one of history's biggest mysteries? The Dyatlov Pass incident, one of Russia's deadliest mountain mysteries, has remained unsolved for over 60 years. But now, compelling new evidence has emerged, which may finally reveal what happened to the 9 hikers who suddenly and mysteriously died in the winter of 1959. It's me. Here are the top 5 insane details in the case of the Dyatlov Pass incident, including the brand new update that may have just solved this case. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers set off into the northern Ural Mountains. They planned to hike to a remote area called Otorten, scaling peaks that had never been climbed before. But they were ill prepared for the harsh conditions that the northern Ural Mountains would throw at them. On February, after 9 days of hiking, the group made camp at an area known as Dyatlov Pass, and it was here where things took a turn for the worst. Sometime during the night, an avalanche or some other natural disaster struck the tent, slicing it open and causing the tent to collapse. This is where we get our first piece of new evidence. A recently discovered photograph taken by one of the hikers just before the disaster appears to show the tent in better condition than previously thought. Taken by Semyon Zolotaryov, the photograph shows no clear signs of damage. However, when you look closely at the tent, it's clear that there is a dark line running across the tent. Some believe this could be a shadow cast by a nearby tree, but others argue that this line is actually a gas canister that had been placed directly in front of the tent. Could this have been an attempt by the group to mark their territory and perhaps even ward off animals? Or could this strange object have been something else entirely? At around 2 a.m., an avalanche would strike the area, causing temperatures to plummet to minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit. This sudden drop in temperature led to the group's alcohol supplies freezing, making it impossible for them to warm up and leading to their hypothermia. In a panic, the group cut open their tents and ran out into the freezing cold. To make matters worse, the moonless night made it difficult for them to see where they were going, and several of the hikers fell and injured themselves. And this is where we get our second piece of new evidence. One of the deceased hikers, Yuri Krivonoshenko, was discovered with a fractured skull, leading investigators to believe he had been a victim of an assault. However, according to forensic experts, the injury wasn't consistent with an external impact and instead appeared to have been caused by internal bleeding. This could suggest that Krivonoshenko didn't die as a result of an attack, but rather died from hyperthermia, which can cause blood vessels in the brain to rupture. Of the 9 hikers, only 2 survived the ordeal. Zineta Kolmogorova died from severe hypothermia, while Lyudmila Dubinina succumbed to the cold after injuring her foot. To this day, the case remains officially unsolved, although many believe that the group's deaths were the result of a combination of factors, including the avalanche, their inadequate supplies, and the freezing temperatures. However, there are those who believe that there is more to the story. According to Yuri's brother Yuri, there were rumors circulating at the time that the group had stumbled upon a secret military base, and that they may have accidentally trespassed onto restricted land. This could explain why the authorities were so tight-lipped about the investigation, and why the case remains unsolved to this day. So, what do you think happened to the Dyatlov group? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. The third piece of evidence comes in the form of a recording made by one of the surviving hikers, Lyudmila Dubinina. She told those who found her that she and her companion had woken up in the middle of the night to what sounded like screams in the forest. While the recording is brief, it does add another layer to this already complex mystery. Could the group have been the victims of foul play? Was there really a man-made cause behind the disaster, or was it simply a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time? In the aftermath of the tragedy, the surviving hikers received criticism for not turning back earlier and for not being adequately prepared for the harsh weather conditions. It wasn't until decades later that people began to question whether or not the group had gotten a fair shake. In 2019, a group of Russian and international scientists used computer modeling to try and determine what really happened to the group. Their conclusion: the hiker's tent was unlikely to have been sliced open by an avalanche. Instead, the most likely cause was an increase in air pressure, perhaps caused by a sudden temperature change or strong winds, which could have caused the tent to collapse. And this is where we get our fifth and final piece of evidence. During the initial investigation, the tent was discovered 500 feet from its original location, leading investigators to believe that it had been moved. However, a reenactment conducted by a group of archaeologists in 2019 concluded that the tent could have easily been moved during the course of the investigation. In fact, they argued that all of the pieces of evidence, including the location of the bodies, the injuries sustained by the hikers, and the damage to the tent could all be explained by a sudden increase in air pressure. Now you know the full story of the Dyatlov Pass incident and the new evidence which may have just solved this case. But what do you think really happened? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and check out the series in the description below. See you next time.